time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking, but be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the Buddy Martin Show on a Late Night Dilly Dilly. And sorry about the mulligan. Little audio issue there. We're back on the Buddy Martin Show and podcast. Going to be quite a show for you tonight. Those of you who like recruiting are in for a treat. We're one of the best in the business. Jayson Higdon joins us momentarily to give us the latest breakdown on recruiting for the Florida Gators. Program brought to you in part tonight by CD Farms, Florida. Thanks to our friends Tracy and Chris. And we've got lots to talk about tonight. Big win for the Florida Gators, big in terms of size and number of points, etc. Some good things happened. And here we go. It is Florida State, Florida. And I say it that way because the game is in Tallahassee, unlike this Georgia, Florida, and it's in Jacksonville. It's always, to me, Florida, Georgia. But it is actually Florida at Florida State. So, Florida, a 4-point favorite, 4-5 in that neighborhood right there. And you can join us tonight for questions with Jayson. Now, I see some of you are climbing back aboard. Thanks for the tolerance and patience. Here, these little techie bugs come up. Over the weekends, particularly, they seem to creep in. So, got a good show for you tonight. As I said, Jayson Higdon from First and 10 Florida. We'll be talking to the Minister of Information. Graham Hall joins us on the program. And then the Iron Duke himself will be at the anchor position to bring us home with that. So we'll get started in just one moment. Just want to say on a program note, this week, holiday schedule, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday schedule shows, not scheduled for other shows the rest of the week, but it being Thanksgiving and Florida State, we may have a pop-up here or there. You never know about that. So anyway, we will talk about the new commit Florida got from Stone Mountain, offensive tackle, and some other guys who might be flippers, and other scenarios for the Florida Gators recruiting. I will go ahead and see if we get a hold of Jayson right now and visit with him. And we will catch up to what he's got going on. If you haven't seen his new recruiting site, First and 10 Florida, you need to check on that. He is, of course, he's about the best there is in terms of recruiting in the Southeastern Conference as well as recruiting in all over the South. So I believe he will be joining us right now on our Rinstar split screen, Mr. Jayson Higdon of firstand10florida.com, among others. How are you, Jayson?
I'm doing good, buddy. How are you doing tonight?
Doing good. I was just checking to see if you had the same look that you had last time you were on, because, yeah, there you are. You have the last time you had, I don't think you had a full goatee at the time, but it's looking good. It's a little more growth on it these days.
Well, I'm trying, buddy. I'm doing the best I can.
Well, it's getting a little chilly where you're in Atlanta, right?
I am. It's actually a little chilly up here. It is.
Yeah. So you got to get all the help you can get there, right?
That's right.
Yeah. What's your year been like, by the way? Catch us up. I mean, I know it's always for you on the move constantly. And, you know, you're a man who, I don't know, in the old days when you used to have to count minutes on your cell phone, I'm sure you burned a few phones up, didn't you?
I did. It's, this is the crazy time of year. There's two seasons, the football season and the recruiting season. And, I'm actually really excited about getting through this last game this weekend, or, other than the bowl game, to really get recruiting cranked up and see how things end here.
Yeah. It's coming down to the end, as a matter of fact, and people are getting. Well, last time we talked to you, when Florida fans were getting a little bit grim and concerned about what was going on, I think you kind of told us to relax and that Mullen was making progress and he would be fine. So just in a couple of sentences before we get into some specifics, if we may, on the recruiting part of this, we're going to talk about football. Tell us what the latest scenario, because I saw a list and I am not good at recruiting. That's why I beg people like you to come on the show and keep me posted on this. Like last time I saw a list, I don't know if it was 247s. I just looked at it and Florida was 24th. Whatever that means. Now, I know there's a lot of things can happen, but what is going on with the Florida Gators right now?
Well, they're sitting at 15 verbal commitments for this current group of the 19 kids, and they have 10 spots remaining. They're going to get to a full class, and I think the emphasis is going to be on cornerbacks and rush edge players. So you'll see guys like Chris Steele and Kyrie Elam and maybe a Cordell Float or Jay Ward on the back end, and you'll see defensive end rush in players like Brandon Dorless, who's committed to Virginia Tech, or a JUCO player that I really like named Daytona Jackson, who's going to take an official visit to Florida here, I think, December 7th. So they have a lot of things going. They still look to be in really good shape for guys like Keon Zipper, the tight end, and Lloyd Summerall, an outside linebacker, Naquan Wright, the running back. Miami commitment, Michael Tarkin's a kid who's visited 3 times in a row. So he's been in the swamp the last 3 weekends while he's maintained his commitment to the Miami Hurricanes. So people just need to kind of have a little bit of patience, relax. They've picked up 2 really big verbal commitments in the class of 2021, even though people don't really want to talk about sophomores. A couple kids from Stevenson High School, George Jackson, a big offensive lineman, and his teammate who's a DB athlete, Kamar Wilcoxon, both committed over the last couple of weeks. So these all count. It's not just 2019.
Okay.
They need to have commitments for 2020 and 2021.
Okay.
The class of 19 and 20 will be the class that kind of brings them back and has them competing for championships. So they're right where they need to be. They'll finish in the top 10, just like I said they would back in the summer. So things are going really according to plan right now.
Yeah. It seems like the rich are getting richer. Certainly Georgia, it seems, and where you live. It used to be Florida. Now suddenly Georgia, it's still Florida. But there was a time 10, 15 years ago where Florida was the gold rush, and now Georgia has so many good-looking commits, so many good players up there. I guess the growth of the state, and then we know about parts of the other area. It wouldn't matter to Nick Saban where he was because he's going to get the best players against Alabama. So, what are the schools that are mopping up instead of Alabama and Georgia, or is anybody mopping up?
Well, really, I think, those 2 are kind of leading the way for everybody. Clemson's up there as well. And, Dabo's done a great job. And, certainly with, playing for a couple national championships and being in the playoff, the Final Four or what have you, that, those guys have done a great job. But, Florida's done a great job kind of reopening the pipelines back in the state of Georgia just with these 2 most recent commitments. Those 2 kids will have offers from everybody. They've got Jalen Humphreys from Mountain View. They've got Riley Simmons from Buford. They got Hopper committed all out of the state of Georgia. And by the way, the future of this team probably is going to ride on the shoulders of 2 kids from, you guessed it, the state of Georgia with Damian Pierce and Emory Jones. So Mullen and staff have done a fantastic job recruiting the state of Georgia. They're going to continue to hammer away at the state of Georgia, and they're really going to be a thorn in the side of Kirby Smart and the Dogs. There's really no other way around it.
Well, how about this new offensive tackle that Florida got a commit from? Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson, he's a big kid. He's, 6'4", close to 300 pounds, and he's only a sophomore. So he actually came and committed the same day that Kamar did. But when his dad got home, he kind of wanted to make sure that he didn't get caught up in the moment of being at the game. So he waited a couple days, waited a couple weeks. He came back, made sure that's what he still wanted to do, and he did it. So that's a really big pickup for them. And, Kamar Wilcoxon, who's a DB for Stevenson, is dynamite. He's a 6'2", 6'3", 190-pound kid, and he can do it all. So these are big-time commitments for them for the future, and it's really just setting up more inroads in the state of Georgia. Stevenson is loaded with D1 players, 19, 20, and 21. So it's always good to have guys in those guys' ears, move forward.
Yeah. I want to get in a couple of specifics. Some of our people are online to ask you about right now, if it's okay. John T. Kerr lives in Atlanta. He said, can you ask him about the 11th grader at Milton High School, Paul Chio, 6'5", 300. He should work at IHOP because he pancakes people.
Yeah, he actually he's a big-time target for Florida. Coach Epstein's well aware of him. He's visited Florida, and he's going to be one of those guys they're going to go hard after next year. So they have a lot of guys in 2020, especially in the state of Florida. But Paul's definitely a kid who's on the radar near the top of the board.
All right, what about the Trey Sanders thing? You hear this, hear that. Any chance there? Is that a foregone conclusion?
Well, I think, this might be one of those things where once we reach signing day, people might sit back in their chair and go, wow, it really was that easy. He really wanted to come to Florida and play with his brother. So, the mom wants him to be at Florida. He and his brother are very close. Alabama obviously is a.
I think we lost you there for a second, Jayson. I'm going to hang on for a second, see if we get you back. Yeah, the thing is, I think we lost Jayson. Let's see if we can get him back on here. Technology, that's how it is. Jayson, you're reconnecting, it says right here. Hopefully that will happen. Are you there? Okay, there you are. All right, whatever. It might have been on my end. I'm not sure, but suddenly we lost you. Okay. I'm sorry. We're back in talking about who was it? Trey Sanders?
Trey Sanders, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people just want to write him off to the University of Alabama, and I guess rightfully so, just because of the way they've, handled running backs and their ability to go out and land pretty much whatever running back they want. But, I think Florida has a real chance there to kind of sneak up on some people with his brother already being on campus. I know his mom wants him to be at Florida. The mother wants both kids to be at the same school. I still think they're going to be kind of on the outside looking in. Georgia could be the sleeper team in all of this. I think Florida's in a good position with a couple of kids, especially Naquan Wright, maybe even Mark Anthony Richards, who might have Auburn leading at this time, but don't count out Florida there either. So they're going to be in it till the end. They're going to kind of wait and see how things unfold with Trey. So, I don't really want to count them out right now, but I think they have some ground to make up.
All right, and another Trey Dean.
I like Trey. He obviously had a good freshman season playing corner for Florida. I still think ultimately at the end of the day, with the amount of corners that Florida's going to bring in this class, 4 for sure, maybe 5, that'll really give Grantham the ability to maybe slide Dean to one of those safety positions. So I think he had a really good freshman season. But ultimately, he's a guy that I think will find his home at safety for Florida down the road.
Okay. All right. So what is the way you analyze these teams pretty well? You know their needs. What do you see Florida going after in terms of position? I know they like to go after the best available player on the board, the 5s and the 4s. Florida hasn't been in the conversation for 4s and 5s until recently again. If you had Mullen's board for needs, what would it be in terms of what you see up there?
It's definitely rush end, defensive line players, and corners. Those two positions are the primary focus for them. They have 2 corners now. They're definitely going to take 2 more, probably 3 if they can get them. And rush end players like Brandon Dorler, so I mentioned earlier, committed to Virginia Tech. Daytona Jackson, he's a player to keep an eye on. Those are 2 rush DNs. Lloyd Summerall, the outside linebacker. Mm-hmm. Those are all players that are priorities right now for Florida. Yeah. They want guys that can get after the quarterback, and they want guys in the back end that can cover. So those 2 positions are a huge priority, and the number 1 and 2 spots left on the board.
All right, a couple more for Jayson Higdon. Jayson, I'm sorry we got to you late because of had a little tech issue tonight. But if you had a couple more questions, and also if you would size up the way the season turned out. Let's start with Florida, a team that was kind of dead in the water at one point, especially at halftime of South Carolina. It looked like the season was going to go and drift into a 7-5, and suddenly things happened. Florida wins now. Should have 9 wins, but you can't guarantee that against a rival. But 9-3, chance to a New Year's 6-day bowl if it all works out. I would say overall better than the projections. And what is your analysis from a more neutral standpoint of how Mullen has done and the season they put together?
Well, I think clearly if you would have said, before the season they'd have a chance to be 9-3 after knocking off Florida State on the road at the end of the season, every Florida fan would have kind of taken that and been really happy with that. Mm-hmm. So especially with a chance to go, beat up on your little brother like Central Florida in the Fiesta Bowl, to get to that 10th win. So I think they've kind of exceeded expectations as far as, what I thought they would be able to do. I think Coach Mullen has done it a little bit with kind of some smoke and mirrors just from some of the offensive limitations that they have, just based on some of the things that Franks isn't really the best at doing. The Florida State game, they have a lot to play for. Florida has a lot to play for. I don't think it's going to be an easy game. I think Florida will be able to kind of control the line of scrimmage. They should be able to run the ball. And, I'm looking for them to, kind of eke out a close win in the fourth quarter. But I think, with the win, you get to 9-3, and Coach Mullen probably gets, Coach of the Year in the SEC. So I think they're a little bit ahead of schedule. But what's really going to kind of make the offense tick is when the training wheels kind of come off Emory Jones. So it doesn't matter that it was Idaho, okay? Franks looked great against Idaho, right? But that was his 23rd or 24th start.
Right.
Emory Jones looked great against Idaho in his third game action ever. Can you imagine what Emory may have looked like had that been his 23rd game played in a Florida uniform? So the thing that's most impressive about him, watching it and some of the things I've heard, is he's really changed his delivery. So he has more of a compact one-piece delivery. And the thing that he does that
you're talking about Jones now, right?
Yeah, Emory. The thing that he does that's so impressive is he throws wide receivers open.
Right.
Felipe does it occasionally.
Exactly.
Emory does it a lot, and he's a very young player, and it's something that you really can't teach. So the sky's the limit for him, and I look forward to seeing what he can do in 2019.
Couldn't agree with you more on that in terms of throwing the receivers open, something they have needed to do for sure. All right, so how about flippers? There's some out there that do you see any flippers there that might come Florida's way?
I think the majority of the guys left on the board probably will be guys they flip. For example, Derek Hunter's committed to FSU. Quayshawn Fuller's committed to FSU. Brandon Dorless is committed to Virginia Tech. Michael Tarkin's committed to Miami. Even a kid like Dante Lucas, who's committed to Florida State, will be somebody that I think you'll end up seeing make an official visit to Florida before it's all said and done. Then you got a guy, Jaron Handy, who's committed publicly elsewhere, is taking an official visit to Florida. So they have 10 spots left, and there's a real strong possibility 5 of those guys should be guys that flip from other programs. So they've done a great job, maintaining relationships with these guys despite even, committing to other programs.
What about Pickering Jayson? You know about him?
Pickering had a great time this weekend. He chose to come and visit Florida on his birthday weekend. He came Saturday morning at 8. His birthday was yesterday. He left early this morning. He had a great time. I actually believe you won't see him end up at Mississippi State. He'll leave the state of Mississippi, and when it's all said and done, it's probably going to come down to Alabama and Florida. So, we'll see. It's going to be tough for them, but I think, based off everything that I know, and kind of what went on this week in Alabama, even though it is Alabama, Nick Saban, they're going to have a very, very hard time trying to kind of duplicate or get to the level for his official visit in Tuscaloosa that the Pickering family just had in Gainesville. So that one's going to be real interesting. His official visit to Bama's coming up. I'm curious to see kind of what he's saying after that trip. But Florida set the mark very, very high for Pickering and his family. So they'll have a chance with Nathan.
I said Jayson, sorry. And by the way, there's a lot of different kinds of recruiting now, because I opened this question up a month ago, and that is, given the situation with multiple quarterbacks at schools and having the 2 quarterback thing, you're going to have transfers, and we've seen it already. And the one analytic, which is remarkable, if you go through the top 5 teams with the best chance of being in the playoffs, every one of them have one characteristic. They all upgraded on quarterbacks since last year, and some of them are grad transfers, Michigan, obviously, and they are, and we saw the Tua change in Alabama. So quarterbacks are kind of playing musical chairs. Don't you have to all of a sudden? I know some coaches like to keep their quarterback room, sort of like it's a place of reverence, and you don't talk about outside people coming in. But is there a new element today to recruiting, to shopping around for the people like Kelly Bryant say, maybe I can get that guy to take a visit?
I think it depends on your situation and kind of what you already have. I mean, you're going to have guys like Jalen Hurts and Kelly Bryant maybe Shane Buechele and Wimbush from Notre Dame. There's going to be some really good quarterbacks that are going to be available. Stidham, when he came to Auburn a couple of years ago, the guy that went to Barnett and went to South Florida. It happens all the time. But I believe if you can get a kid in straight from high school, develop him from day one, you'll be better off in the long run. And I think that's what Dan's going to do with Emory Jones, and it'll pay off starting in 2019. So I don't envision them going that direction, or I don't envision them having to go in that direction. I think they're in a good spot right where they are.
All right, so tell folks again about First and 10 Florida and the information on how to get signed up and get all those good articles.
Yeah, firstand10florida.com. I'm running a 7-day free trial now through the end of the month, so people can take advantage of that. They can sign up for free for 7 days. You can get unlimited access to everything that we offer. That will expire at the end of the month, though, so people really need to try to take advantage of that now. So we're building a great community. It's a lot of fun. Just kind of getting started 3 months into this thing, and it's just funny how this is kind of where I started, and this is where I'm going to end. So I'm right back where I am supposed to be, and I'm having a great time doing it, and talking to guys like you.
Grassroots stuff, man. That's what we're about these days. We appreciate you being on. We'll look forward to getting you back again soon.
Thanks, buddy. Have a good night.
Thank you, Jayson Higdon from firstand10florida.com. If you're not familiar with him, well, if you like recruiting, you should check it out. Speaking of check it out, we're going to check this out, and we'll take a quick break and come back. And the Minister of Information is standing by. We'll get his take on a few things, and I'm sure he's got some recruiting information he'll share with us.
Job-related accidents create incredible stress on your finances, your relationships, and most importantly, your sense of well-being. When the adjuster is not approving benefits you're entitled to by law, you need Dan Hightower to help you understand all of your legal options. Daniel L. Hightower has been fighting for accident victim justice in Ocala and statewide since 1976. Call Daniel L. Hightower today to better understand all your legal options. 352-629-7777.
76. There's the article we had earlier, and today it was announced, I have to get this other thing on, that we have a Final Four. The Scott Brantley Trophy and the Renstar Stars of the Week, you see, sponsored by Renstar. Finalists have been announced. There are 4 of them, and we congratulate those 4, and they will be coming to the Ocala Quarterback Club next week. And we'll get a chance to visit with them for their final appearance, and then the winner will be picked in January. These are all young men who have had an outstanding year, and not just football, but academics, leadership, and citizenship. Congratulations to Brian Maurer of Westport, Brian Dillard of Lake Weir, Kimo Clark of Vanguard, and Trey Whittemore of Gainesville-Buchholz. All announced as the finalists today, and we have more information about that. Meanwhile, the information about Renstar is, well, it's a first-class medical research facility we benefit from because it's right here, and they're looking for cures and treatments for these diseases that we seem to be hearing about so much, especially things like Alzheimer's and psoriasis and osteoarthritis, migraine, etc. And there's clinical trials going on at Renstar, and that information is shipped off. First of all, it's done under closely guarded FDA supervision. Safety is very closely monitored, and then the information is gathered and sent up to these biomedical and pharmaceutical companies. So if you want to be a part of one of these trials, you can call them at Renstar 352-629-5800, or go online at Renstar.net and find out more information. Just remember, Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today, proud sponsor of the Renstar Star of the Week. Also, if you need a good meal, this is where you get it, right here. Mark's Prime, certainly many of you heard about it. There's one in Gainesville, one in Ocala, And if you're lucky enough to have been, you know about it. If you're not, well, you got to go there and try it out. These are just 2 dishes of the many they have. On the right, that wonderful piece of beef right there, which is as good as it gets. And, of course, the shrimp on the left. And the menu has many items on it, and they're delicious. It's well prepared. They're committed to a unique dining experience for you. And they like to say they want to please your palate and soothe your soul. Do that with the freshest seafood and the finest beef and the premium wines, naturally fresh vegetables. One of the best restaurants in Florida, one of the best I've eaten in, period. And I've eaten some great ones. So check it out. Go online to Ocala. Go to marchprimesteakhouse.com. And Ocala, call 352-402-0097. Gainesville, 352-336-0077. Remember, you got to get the reservation in advance at Mark's Prime. They have a holiday season coming on, and it's a great place to go, which is why so many people are there. So that's the information you need to know about Mark's Prime Steakhouse, a terrific place to dine. I got to go back there during the holidays. All right. Graham Hall, of course, writes articles for Gator Bait. He also writes articles for the Gainesville Sun. And he comes on many shows like this one and shares his knowledge. I believe Graham's covered in basketball this year, too. So he's got lots of duties, and Graham has always got good information. I want to get to him and ask him if he's heard anything about the preparation for Florida State this weekend. I saw a list. I've got it here someplace, and I'll put it up while we're waiting. Matter of fact, while we get Graham on here. Here's a list of I saw from the Feinbaum show, ranking the rivals as we get, we'll get just a second. We'll have Graham up. I see it's on the screen. How you doing, buddy? I got the rivals. I'll just go ahead and read them. You can't see these. This is the Sporting News put this list today. And their rivalries are 1 through 10. They ranked them, and Florida's number 10. There was a time when it was the top 2 or 3, but going up the ladder, and this is one that kind of gets you, they're below. Florida State and Florida are below Troy and Appalachian State. I don't think so. Yeah. And then all above 8 is Utah State, Boise State, 7 South Carolina Clemson, 6 Notre Dame USC, 5 UCF at USF. Now, in my life, I never thought I'd see a list of rivalries that would have UCF and USF better than Florida State. Somebody's jerking our chain. And then Washington State, the Apple Cup, Oklahoma, West Virginia, number 2, Auburn, Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State. I would move Michigan, Ohio State down because it hasn't produced much the last 5 years. And then Auburn, Alabama is number 2, should be 1. But are you kidding me? Graham, talk to me and tell me what that's all about, buddy.
I haven't even heard of 3 of these. I didn't know Oklahoma at West Virginia was a rivalry. I didn't, maybe that's my ignorance. I didn't even know in App State they had enough. I don't even think the fans together to fill Griffin State. It is that they every single year, and be fair.
Graham, do me a favor and call me back? You're breaking up for me here, and they can't hear you. If you give me a call back, and let's see if we can get a little clearer signal. It's our night for this kind of stuff, isn't it? It's just how it's going tonight. Let's try him again, see. And here's the Ministry of Information. Let's see if we got a clearer line, as you say the old days.
Better?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Very much better.
Yeah, what I was saying, I didn't even think that Oklahoma at West Virginia was a rivalry, and I didn't even think that, Troy and App State have enough fans combined to fill Ben Hill Griffin Stadium. I guess, recent memory bias or whatever you want to call it. Florida State hasn't been a great rivalry in the last 5-6 years.
No, I get it. I understand that. But, I mean, you're reaching when you say USF and UCF is one of the top 5 rivalries in the country. I mean, I'd say it'll be a 7, 8, 9, maybe, and I could say, okay, and it's on the move, and it may well become. But a rivalry needs time. You don't invent a rivalry in 3 or 4 years, okay?
Was Iron Bowl even on it?
Yeah, they're number 2. Which, by the way, is easily number 1. Easily number 1 without question.
And Michigan, I think Michigan State is even a bigger game, and some of them on there, and
I think that was wrong. I think what they meant to say, if they want to say relevance 2018 two of their best rivalries, and you rank them. You can't rank a rivalry like that. There's no way. I mean, please. Insults our intelligence, something like that. Anyway, so what's going on? Have you been you've been doing basketball too, right?
Yeah, I've been taking actually a few days off. I've been feeling the seasonal allergies of everyone else that Dan Mullen was feeling today, Felipe Franks. Pat's been covering some basketball for us today, but I'll be doing my regular football reporting. I talked to Todd Grantham tonight and C.J. Henderson and talked to those guys about what it would mean to beat Florida State. David Reese said tonight that the mentality week to week in this team is something that we've talked a lot about, consistency, something that they're going to need to work on. And David Reese tonight said that, with the mentality that they've shown the last 2 weeks, really since rallying against South Carolina, they wish they could play Missouri again, because this is a team that they feel could possibly have, be 10-2 when all is said and done, but still a chance to have 10 wins depending on that bowl game and how it plays out. But the big thing is that, and Zach Carter actually admitted it after the game, he said that all in the build-up to Idaho, they were focused on preparing for Florida State, making extra preparation for Florida State. This game, it means a lot more, I think, to the Gators than it does to Florida State, even though they're fighting to keep that, 36-year bowl eligibility streak alive.
I know.
So there are some more storylines, I will say, than in recent years. Florida's going to be favored, and they're also the one craving a win. And Florida State is trying to keep a historical streak alive and salvage some good memories in Willie Taggart's first year. It's going to be very interesting. Yeah,
that's a lot going on there, and it's been a disaster, obviously, in Tallahassee. But, these are the kind of things where one to win almost makes your season. And that would be I don't think it's going to be an easy game. I just don't see. I think they beat a pretty good Boston College team. Granted, there were injuries to Boston College, but still, Cam Akers is a heck of a running back. Obviously, the quarterback, DeAndre Francois, has not gotten it together yet. I don't think Florida State's had an offensive line in 15 years. I don't know what gives to them. They don't get offensive linemen or something up there. They got their quarterback skill. They got defense, and they got great speed, and they got on defense. And tomorrow we're going to have an old friend on up in at War Chant to talk about Florida State to get coached up. I haven't kept up, but let's talk about Florida for a second. Let's go back to last weekend for a second. What did you pull from the Idaho game? What did you take away?
Well, I liked seeing Dan Mullen, like everyone else, pull out all the stops. I think that especially if you're going to rotate in, cycle in as many second, third string guys as possible, what you need to do is make them see that they can be successful and everything plays out, even if it's against an Idaho team. That's what you're paying them. What is it, $1.2 million to do is beat the crap out of them and give your guys some confidence, give them some game experience. That's what you're paying them for, is a glorified scrimmage that's going to count as a W. Give your starters a chance to rest. I don't think Jordan Scarlett had a carry against he was part of that reverse, but I don't think that he had a carry, and many other Gators had a chance to rest. Felipe Franks rested the entire second half and the last 3 minutes of the second quarter there. So that is probably the biggest thing. Dan Mullen today said that they escaped with no injuries, and they should get everyone back. They should get Brett Heggie back, Brad Stewart. Probably a little more questionable with Brad, but they should get everyone back against Florida State, and that is, again, a far cry from the last 3 years against Florida State, where they were going into the end of the season and you were missing so many starters. I think last year they were missing 22 guys against South Carolina, and they were averaging 10 starters missing every single game. It's night and day, and we think that we think of the immediate impact having those guys in there, but a lot of those guys are young and they're getting game experience, and that's increasing their long-term potential. And I think that's the big thing for Idaho. That's why you schedule an Idaho against Florida State, so you're not playing a South Carolina or Missouri, and you're not getting beat by 25 before playing your biggest rival. Dan Mullen said today that, like what you just said, buddy, that they can go into Florida State and they can have a good season. And if they lose to Florida State, it's, we had a great season, but, or they could have a bad season, like for Florida State, but then they beat Florida, number 13 team in the country, and that kind of salvages a lot for them. It salvages, some recruiting momentum and all that stuff. So definitely things that you have to worry about if you're Dan Mullen and if you're Willie Taggart.
Yeah, for sure. All right, I'll get you a couple final thoughts and let you go and catch up on your. Thanks for joining me in the night when you're not feeling the best in the world. I hope you get better with the allergies. Those things are painful, I know. A lot of points scored last week. Georgia 66, Florida 63, Auburn 53, Mississippi State 52, Missouri 50, Alabama 50, although they struggle. And that's great, but it's not so great because it's Cupcake Weekend. How do you feel about these games?
I look around at the SEC and I understand everything that's changed over the last decade, and the SEC is always going to be known, I guess, for these powerhouse defenses, these fast, quick, rotate often, substitute often, rotating defenses. But recently, like you said, it's been an offensive conference. I mean, you look at Florida, I think they're averaging about 415 offensive yards a game, and that's only
416,
50th in the country. That's insane.
Yeah, but it's better than what it was. Yeah, it was in the hundreds for the last 2 years, right?
Did you see that graphic that went around that showed every category that Florida had improved in?
I did see that. Yes.
And some of those have gone up 90 places. I think one of those was the touchdown to interception ratio. Last year, I was kind of surprised that for every touchdown, they had an interception. And maybe I guess that it's just lost on me in retrospect how bad Florida's offense really was. When you look at now that they have a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, and Felipe Franks isn't going out there and lighting it up every single game. Again, it's an ultimate testament to coaching. You just pointed out Cam Akers, all the talent that Florida State has got over the last few years, and they're still, they have 5 wins, and 3 of them came against Northern Illinois, Samford, and Wake Forest. Your talent means nothing if you don't have the right coaches in there, and I think that Florida certainly knows that with Will Muschamp and Jim McElwain, and now Florida State's finding it out.
Can finish off a good season. What you got coming up in Gator Bait?
I'm writing about Brian Burns, Florida's defensive end, and still figuring out what I'm writing this week about Florida State, but it's probably going to be about the seniors, what this game can do down the line. I mean, Florida really needs a tide-turning game, and, what a better chance to, over the next 3 games for Florida to possibly beat Florida State, UCF if they get the Fiesta Bowl, and then 9 months later, Miami. I don't think there's a better plate of dominance that Florida could possibly have.
Who would have thought?
Looking to assert himself. That could be the next 3 games over the last 10 months. I'm going to take a little bit of a look at that and how that's a very unique situation. You haven't played 3 top teams in state for Florida before. That could be a big thing. So that's what I'm working this week, and then I'm trying to get ready for Thanksgiving, and then I'll be up in Tallahassee to wrap this season up, buddy.
Well, have a good trip. Happy Thanksgiving to you. I hope you feel better, and thanks for coming on the program, all right?
Thank you, okay. All you guys, too. You have a great Thanksgiving.
All right. Graham Hall, the Minister of Information. Appreciate it, buddy. All right, so let's get our buddy Franz Beard aboard here, get him started. I'm sure he's got probably Thanksgiving at home with his parents. That's what he usually does, and I don't think he'll be traveling anywhere. Dally's going to go up to the game. I'm not going to go this weekend. I'm going to have my family coming in there, and I'm going to be watching on TV and seeing my grandson for first time in a while. So I'm taking a little holiday this week. Been a long year, I would call Franz Beard. While we do that, I want to be sure and tell you about, while we get Franz on board, I want to tell you about, I was down at Grinders today, about to buy a new jacket because I've got a gig I got to do for the Ocala Symphony. And I've got some on the screen here, some beautiful things I took pictures of there. There's a Peter Millard jacket in the middle. Oh, boy, that's nice. And then some shirts and some other things. Grinders, of course, long-time tradition. Franz Beard knows about them. They've been, since 1962, they've been a tradition here. It's a place you can go and be assured that your clothes are going to look smart. And they'll tell you. I went in today and said, David, I got to have something because I got this important time. I don't have a good-looking sport jacket. Miss Jody wants me to get one. She says, sorry, it's what you're going to get. Going to do this in a black and da-da-da-da. I'll have it for you next week, and then we'll get it tailored. That's what you'll do when you go to Grinders. They're terrific lines. They have terrific people down there, or David DeSantis, and, of course, always a good place to go and hang out just to be there with the little dog, Elvis. Elvis is in the picture laying down here on the floor. So go and say hi to Elvis. Tell David hello. Check out some of those great fall lines. Some of those long-sleeve Peter Millard shirts are great. That's a good-looking jacket. You'll find out why Grinders has been an Ocala institution since 1976. Griner's 405 East Silver Springs Boulevard, downtown Ocala. And with that, let's go up to the back to the hotline and see if our buddy Francis Beard, he's there. There he is. There he is. What's up, Francois?
Let me tell people one thing. If they tell you it looks good on you at Grinders, buy it because it does.
Yeah, boy. You know about it. Remember, our late friend. Your friend and mine too. One of my good buddies, Augie Griner. I think about him every day to this day. What a terrific person he was. In addition to being a great clothier, but also we did a lot of broadcasting with him. When you were covering more basketball in the day, Augie, of course, is we used to call him our Mr. Basketball. And I still miss him. He's been gone a while, and I still miss him. So I love going back down to the store. It makes you feel like I'm close to Augie. So, Francis, how you doing, buddy?
Good night to be had by all. The Gators on the verge of, I think, moving up to probably, I'd say, 10th or 11th in the playoff poll. Probably, I would say, 12th for sure. But I think that there's a possibility they move up a little higher than that.
Well, they're 13 in both the other polls. They were static in one, and they moved up 2 spots in the coaches, I believe it was. And so there's going to be tough to jump too far ahead of them because some of those teams have to lose, and some of them will lose because of the rivalry week. And
but the playoff rankings are a little bit different.
Yeah,
because
right, more eye tests. Mm-hmm.
The Gators were, here's the thing with the playoff rankings. The Gators were 13th last week. Syracuse was 12th. X them out. They lost. West Virginia lost. X them out. They're gonna drop. So Florida could move up, I'd say, 2 spots to number 11. And depending on what the committee thinks, the committee may look at that Ohio State near egg they laid at Maryland, and they may drop them down a spot. They may move Florida up a spot, move Ohio State down a spot, which could put the Gators, say, even as high as number 10.
Yes. Since you brought it up, I was going to bring it up, and let's talk about it. I talked to a couple of people, including Coach Spurrier, about Urban Meyer. And you and I know Urban fairly well. I know I don't want to get into – I hate Urban Meyer stuff, okay? I don't want to hear it tonight. But everybody's concerned about his welfare, and he did look like he was going to keel over on the sideline. Amazingly. I've seen that look before, and you have too. I somehow keep thinking that he'll get past this and live to fight again another day because, Franz, you know this to be the case. When I wrote the book 10 years ago, Urban's Way, interviewed over 50 people, including his ex-teammates and friends. They all told me they thought Urban would never burn out or go to the NFL. He'd just drop over on the sideline. Now, that's before he got sick because he's the kind of guy that just goes all in on what he does. And, we see that on the sideline. He looks like he's tilting, leaning, like he may fall over at any minute. And I was quite frankly worried about him, Franz. What about you?
I took one look at him bending over on the sideline, and I really feared something bad was about to happen to him the other day. As much as I hate to agree with Paul Feinbaum on this, I'm not sure he's going to coach next year, but this time it will be a legitimate, just like last time. I know a lot of people don't want to believe it, but the last time was a legitimate health concern, and I think this one will be. Only this time, if he walks away, it will be for good. I guarantee you, it will be for good because I'm pretty good friends with Shelley, and that's pretty much what Shelley said. When he walks away from this job, there will be no other job.
Mm-hmm. Certainly not money, that's for sure. We'll see what happens. Spurrier is supposed to be on with tomorrow, hopefully, if not then Wednesday. He brought this stat up to me, and you're just the man who researched this, so I can tell him we're on it. He says Urban never loses close games. He said, I don't know anybody who's won more 1- and 2-point games in coaching than him. And, of course, he called me Saturday night. Well, there's another one. They won. That game was going south for Urban. There's no way Ohio State's winning that game. Everything that could go wrong is going wrong. You just knew that. Maryland, I got to give it up for Maryland. Maryland played great football. And Matt Canada, I got new respect for him, the way he coached that team. And you had to say, you understand, you loved him for having the guts. Of course, he had nothing to lose. Go for it at the end. And the play was right. It was open. And, of course, he had an inexperienced quarterback, a freshman wide receiver that couldn't complete it, and Urban dodged a bullet. But I don't know, France, I think Steve said he might be 5-1 in overtime games. I'm not sure. And so he's won almost every close game. So, and that's what you have to do, to get the good record.
Well, you go back to 2006 when the Gators were, the Gators were the cats with 9 lives. We were there. Maybe the loudest moment ever in the history of the Swamp when Jarvis Moss, blocks that field goal at the end. And what's amazing is that was the third kick in the fourth quarter the Gators blocked. That doesn't happen. I'm sorry. I still look back at that as probably one of the 5 most amazing games I've ever seen.
Yeah, Jarvis, by the way, not to interrupt you, but Jarvis told Charlie Strong, I'm going back in that game. He said, Jarvis, you have a guy, he says, he would say he was spent completely. And Charlie Strong said, you can't do it. He says, I'm going back in that game. And he did, and he blocked the kick. So
he said he was going in to block the kick.
Yeah, right.
And you think about it. Jarvis Moss was 6'7". Derek Harvey was 6'5". If Derek Harvey's in there in the middle, which is what would have happened if Moss hadn't been in the ball game, that field goal would have been good. That kicker that they had, South Carolina had, was on radar lock. Mm-hmm. And the only way that he misses is if it's blocked. And Jarvis Moss got it, the tip of his foot. He even told me after that game, he said, the last rung on my finger got,
Yeah.
He didn't get a whole hand on it. He just got fingers on it. And, it took a 6'7" guy to do it. But you're right. Urban, that 2006 team thrived in the close ball games. They beat FSU. I think it was 21-14 there up at Doak Campbell that year. Another close ball game. All through that season, there were close calls, and he's thrived in those situations.
Yeah.
Plus, I'll tell you something else. Urban, if Urban is going to lose a game, more than likely it's going to be against a lesser team, maybe even an unranked team. For example, like Ole Miss, if we go back, like he lost to Auburn
Purdue
in 2006. Mm-hmm. He's more likely to lose to the lesser teams than he is to a ranked team. Mm-hmm. His teams rarely lay an egg in a big game against a highly ranked opponent. I think, I'm not at all certain, as some people are, that Michigan's going to win that game this weekend. It's in Columbus.
Well, I'll tell you, they will. If they play like that, their defense has just disappeared completely. Greg Schiano needs to go coach the special teams or something. The way that group plays is awful.
Here's what I heard that I kind of agree with. He doesn't have a team that's playing assignment football. He's got a defensive team out there that's playing hero football. Everybody's trying to make the big play or the big hit, and people aren't paying attention to their assignments, and that's what's happening. The big plays get hit when people blow assignments. Mm-hmm. I kind of agree with that, having watched them in a couple of 3 bad ball games this year.
Yeah. Friends, let me get a couple of questions in from people. Lynn Tindall wants to know about the Mad Hatter going to Kansas. I don't know. I know people are knocking it. Why not? The guy's won a national championship. He was successful in Oklahoma State, the Big 12 once before. Unless you can go out and hire a bright young guy. But who are you going to get at Kansas? Let's be honest.
What he can do at Kansas is he can coach 5 or 6 years,
and build it for the next guy.
Stabilize that situation, and then they can go get their young guy because by then they'll have a base.
I agree.
You've got to remember something. It can be done in the state of Kansas. Before Bill Snyder went to Kansas State, K-State had the worst record in all of Division I in the history of college football. And you look at what's happened in the years since then. K-State is a very respected program. It can be done in the state of Kansas. You can get players to come there because there are not enough good players to come in Kansas. You've got to be able to recruit. And if we know one thing about Les Miles, he can flat out recruit.
Yeah. All right, let's talk rivalries here. We've been around. We've seen a few. Believe it or not, I was thinking, how many people do you know that actually was at the first FSU Florida game? You probably don't know many. I was sitting in the stands as a student. I saw it when Bobby Wren took the kickoff back. But rivalries. Now, there was a time for those people who hadn't been around that long in the Spurrier-Bowden area where you could make a case for Florida State being the top rivalry in the country. I mean, it was, let's be honest. The 90, 95, 96 era right in there, it was. Those teams were playing. Every time they played, they were top 5 going head to head, And you look at that thing. I'm looking at this sporting news grid. I'm going to put it back up again. This is sporting news. If you haven't seen it, you'll get a kick out of this. You ready? I'll start from the bottom and go up. Now, I'll say number 10, Florida State. 10. Number 9, Troy at App State. Okay. I'm going to leave it there. Number 8, Utah State at Boise State. 7, South Carolina Clemson. Notre Dame at USC is number 6. And number 5 is UCF at USF. Are you kidding me? You can't have a top rivalry if they only started playing football 15 or 20 years ago. They just burst on the scene, and they're not even Power 5, they're not even, the elite team. So I don't know.
He's got to be talking about this has got to be the rivalry game of the weekend because.
Well, ranking the best rivalries according to Sporting News. All right. Now, he's got Alabama, Auburn, number 2 to Michigan, Ohio State. And if he means it as this week, maybe, if that's the case, Florida State might not even be in the top 10. But I guess that's what it means. If he's talking about what is now the top rivalries in college football, please, no way.
That wouldn't even be close because if you're talking the top rivalries in college football, you'd have to have Texas and Oklahoma in there.
Right.
Games like that. I know it's a bad year for Florida State, but Clemson-Florida State is still a big rivalry, as is Miami and Florida State, as is Florida-Georgia, as is Florida-Tennessee.
Right. I guess this is rivalry weekend games, I guess.
Yeah, it has to be because, but I'll tell you what, that could be a really good ball game. Last year, it was the same.
Well, I'm not saying it's not a good ball game. If he means the weekend games, yeah. If you're talking about it says the best rivalries, no way.
Yeah.
Is that list right?
Last year, that was the single most entertaining college football game of the entire year, bar none. My gosh, Central Florida gets a kickoff return for a touchdown to take the lead, and then South Florida is driving for the winning touchdown, and their tight end running by himself drops the football on the field. UCF recovers. Wow.
Yeah. All right. So a couple things for you before I let you go. One of them is let's talk a little bit about this weekend's game. This is a game that it would obviously it wouldn't make their season, but it would salvage part of their season if Willie Taggart could pull this win off. And they beat a fairly good Boston College team. And Florida's a 4-point favorite. And, we'll see how Franks responds up in Tallahassee in that game. And, of course, Florida has to run the football. And so I don't know how you size the game up. I can't get a handle on it right now. I don't have a feel for it yet, but I would say it's a little bit of a nervous game for me.
Well, I think everybody should be nervous about it, but I will say this about Florida State. they have done things like they've given up 365 yards rushing to Notre Dame, 222 to Syracuse. Now, they held some teams to some pretty low totals, but North Carolina State, which isn't a running team, ran for 177 yards on them. Some teams can run on them, and the Gators are going to be able. I'm more concerned with Felipe Franks making good decisions throwing the football. If he makes good decisions throwing the football, Florida is going to win this football game. But it comes down to he's got to show the same kind of fortitude that he has shown in the last two ball games in bringing the Gators back from down 21-3, was it, to South Carolina.
South Carolina, right.
And then what he showed he had a really nice ball game the other day. I realized that it was
Idaho.
It was Idaho. But just the same, he did some nice things. You know, he other than an overthrow on a couple deep passes, he looked really, really good throwing the football. And that's what he's got to do. He's got to play with poise, and he can't let the moment be bigger than him. He's got to be big enough to be living in the moment. As Billy Donovan used to say, you got to live in the moment, and the moment can't be bigger than you. And that's what he's got to do. If he does that, and the Gators stuff the run, the Gators will win this football game.
Okay.
But they can't let Florida State run the football. The Seminoles haven't run it very much all year, but they had a pretty good running game against Boston College. They went for 156 yards, which was their season high. Now, the Gators have got to be able to do better than that, and they've got to get to DeAndre Francois.
Yeah.
The Seminoles have allowed 31 sacks this year.
Yeah.
31, that's enormous.
Now, we're not going to have time for this tonight, but because of our shortened weekend, if you're available Wednesday night, we'll do a little memory lane stuff, talking about favorite Florida State games, moments, etc. We remember the Braveheart face of Tebow and on and on. If you're up for that on Wednesday night.
I'm always up for stuff like that. There have been a couple really good Florida State.
We'll save them up till Wednesday night. And by the way, we don't have a show Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but we have maybe a pop-up show in there somewhere over the next few days of the holidays. If you're available, want to do it. All right, we'll talk about it. All right.
Let me give you one quick stat.
All right, go ahead.
Quick stat too, for everybody to think about.
All right.
For the next few days. The Gators have gotten 27 sacks this year. Okay. They've only given up 14. Think about that. Last year, this team gave up 38 sacks. They've only given up 14 this year.
Yeah.
If they can protect the passer against FSU, they're going to be all right. If they get to the passer, which they should do against that sieve of an offensive line, they're going to be all right. It's where this game's going to be decided. It's going to be decided by Felipe Franks' poise, and it's going to be decided by the offensive and defensive lines protecting and rushing.
To your credit, I will say that when last spring we started talking about the offensive line coach, you brought up the stat at Mississippi State, how few sacks John Hevesy had last year, and you're right on.
Well, Hevesy doesn't get the credit he deserves. He is an elite offensive line coach. And he reminds me of another former Gator who's now the offensive line coach up at West Virginia for Daniel Holgerson, named Joe Wickline. Joe Wickline, one of the great offensive line coaches in America. Yeah. But I think Hevesy does a tremendous job. And I think the future of Florida's offensive line is really, really bright. This guy's got it going.
Francis, yes.
Gators are going to protect.
Yes, and I want to protect you because we'd be here till midnight if I didn't, and which is okay with me either way. Thanks very much, Francis. We'll talk to you on Wednesday. I'll wish you happy Thanksgiving there, okay?
All right.
The Iron Duke, Francis Beard.
Appreciate it. Thanksgiving spirit.
All right, buddy. Thank you. See ya. All right, Francis Beard checking in. So let's do this. Today I didn't get a chance to play this, so I'm just going to play a couple of minutes of it, not even. This is my conversation with Todd Swearingen, who is the chief scout for the Scott Brantley Trophy, and which we narrowed down to 4 today in today's newspaper. And I wanted to play just a couple of bites of that. We'll play the whole interview later on. Very excited about these 4 players for the Scott Brantley Trophy. That's not it. We don't want that. What we want is, well, you like that? Looks like that wants to stay up there. Okay. Let me do this. All right, I'm here with my friend, Todd. All right, I'm here with my friend, Todd Swearingen, and we're having a little lunch and talking about something that we're both very excited about. Todd will be the chief scout of the Scott Brantley Trophy team. I'm Buddy Martin, just some dumb cluck who's a member of the quarterback club. But we got some exciting news in the Star Banner today. There it is right there. The 4 finalists are named for the Scott Brantley Trophy. If you don't know what that is, we're going to try to tell you in a short period of time. Why don't you sum it up? You're the chief scout. What do you think? What is this Brantley Trophy about?
All right, so the Brantley Trophy is about finding the best player in the 6-county area, buddy, at the high school level. So essentially is the Heisman for Central Florida. And what we're looking for is the best player on the field, the best player in the classroom, and the best player in the community that best represents the values that Scott Brantley exhibited as a high school player, as a college player, and of course for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the quarterback club has put this award together, and we've got a great committee that has been very diligent in its work to find the best players to start with. So we started with 20, we got it down to 10, and then we have our final 4.
Well, Todd Duffy, who's the quarterback club captain, has done a marvelous job with his committee, and you've been doing a great job. You started with a watch list of 41, as I recall, something like that. Yep. And the 6 counties, see if we can remember them all. Yep. Alachua, Marion, Citrus, Sumter, Levy, and Lake.
That's it.
Senior.
Be a senior player.
Person who represents the qualities that Scott had as a competitor, as a student, as a leader, all those things. Yep. And the committee has worked diligently all year, looking at film, looking at tape, and now we're bringing this all together on the 28th, the Ocala House Club, with the final meeting of the awards night of the Ocala Quarterback Club, and all 4 coaches, hopefully, and all 4 players will be there that night to learn, really, for the club to meet them. And the quarterback club gets a collective vote, so they'll get a chance to do these guys too. And so, anything you can tell us about these 4 young men? I want to mention them by name, by the way. Just fine article by Richard today. We know Brian Mora, of course, the quarterback from Westport. Brian Dillard, Kevo Clark, and Trent Whittemore, all 4 terrific young men who are in the. It's an honor to make the Final 4. Okay, here's a little comment about that. We'll play more of it later in the week. Congratulations, more information. We'll have these 4 young men on camera next week and talk. We're very proud of this award. Okay, we'll tell you about our friends on All Florida Sportswear, and we'll wrap this. Needs for Christmas Gator stuff, and they have FSU, by the way, in Miami too, but go online and check it out. They do a great job there, and we'll have more information about those Christmas goodies later on in a couple of weeks. If you're looking for gifts, Black Friday coming up. Let me get my girl Jen Lay in here, because there's another idea for you, talking about some kind of different gift. That you always need Tupperware. You always need things in the kitchen to put stuff in, to hold things. and Tupperware has been doing it for a long time and continues to do it. And Jen Lay is our chief Tupperware person. Go on to Facebook, Tupperware Jen, and see for yourself some of the items. I bought several things from her. And for the kitchen, you get holiday items, containers, etc., pans, pots, whatever. And it's a terrific way to do a fundraiser. If you want to contact them, contact Jen. They'll give you back 40% of your sales proceeds to the organization. So check it out. You can go to JenLay, JenLay.my.Tupperware.com to purchase your product or look at other stuff. Just do a little shopping. Or you can go to her Facebook page, Facebook Tupperware Jen. Check them out, Tupperware. It's been around for a long time, and there's a reason it's good stuff. All right, I'll say thank you to everybody tonight, friends, sponsors, callers, listeners. We don't have a caller, but I was thinking maybe for next year we'd entertain this idea with those few of you who left there. So maybe we'll have a special deal for certain people to call the show. Maybe a hotline, maybe a G&K Elite line. I don't know. It's an idea. We could do this one night a week or something, but we're looking at new models for 2019 if you want to keep this going, and hopefully we do. And we'll come up with some ideas and take some of yours. Meanwhile, I will say good night to you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Don't forget, shows tonight, tomorrow night, Wednesday. Nothing scheduled for the holidays of Thursday and Friday unless we have a pop-up show. Good night, everybody.